Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan battle video. In this video we are going to be taking a look at nothing. Today I'm going to be talking. I decided I wanted to do a little bit of a different video, a little bit of like a discussion video. And with the EZAs having just been announced for Global, I wanted to take this time to talk about AGL Gohan and firstly, explain what needed to happen for his active skill to change, and then I wanted to kind of talk about, kind of why they would never have changed his active skill to begin with, at least from my personal, view. So first, let's just talk about what they need to do to change an active skill. So with EZAs, no EZA has ever resulted in an active skill being changed so far. When you look at how EZAs can affect a unit, it's only the like overall kind of passive, leader and super attack tables that can really be altered. Now passive effects, as in passive conditions like self transformation, revive skills, things that have automatic activations, can be changed under this same column. Things with active activations can't be changed, and you can see that, for example, recently with Int Goku, the Grade 8 Goku, the youth one. His active skill has not been changed, and this is because, at least from what I can gather, they haven't yet added in a table that can affect this active skill column. So maybe in future they will add it in, maybe they'll do a revamp, it might come in an update. But right now basically there's no evidence to suggest that they will be adding in active skill EZAs anytime soon. And there's a large reason for this, I think. Maybe it might cause problems on their back end, but I think the majority is at least from my perspective, a lot of active skills don't need to change. Most of them are not damage orientated. If they are damage orientated, they still do a lot of damage, as most active skills are affected by the passives of units and are affected by the actual unit themselves. So when you change the unit, you usually EZA the passive. For example, with Super Saiyan 4 Goku, when he was altered to have higher base stats, his active skill naturally did more damage itself, because of the fact that he had higher stats, higher build-up, and just more crit chance or etc. So yeah, generally speaking, the buff or the actual EZA itself tends to give the unit's active skill enough of an increase. Now in Gohan's case, this is not what happens. Gohan's is an active transformation, which, for the most part, people tend to like. Active transformations are good. They're good for a couple reasons, but they allow the transference of stacks, which is something that's very important. So for example, any defense that Gohan's built up in his base form can be carried over to his Super Saiyan 2 form. But the big thing about these active skill transformations is the fact that they, for the most part, allow you control of when a unit will activate. In Gohan's situation, a lot of people wanted to have the conditions not removed but lessened. Gohan's conditions for his active skill can be considered pretty restrictive. It can be activated anytime when HP is 58% or less with an Android 16 on the team, or when HP is 58% or less with an existing androids category, ally or enemy starting from the 5th turn. Now, starting from the 5th turn and the health requirements, not too bad. The big hindrance is the 2 androids factors. So firstly, the big hindrance in his genericas, the Android 16. Android 16 only appears with Gohan on one category, and that is Android Cell Saga. There's no other category that he exists on with him. Android 16s do not have a widely diverse category basis. I don't even think they're on Bond of Friendship. So they're on androids, Artificial Life Forms, Android Cell Saga, Revenge, and Powerful Comeback. Gohan himself is not on Powerful Comeback, so that immediately removes that. He's not an android, he's not an artificial life form, and he's not on Revenge. So all of a sudden, the amount of categories that you can run him and an Android 16 on is 1. It's not a huge issue, but it's a pretty big problem. So firstly, that's a problem. Secondly, there's no AGL Android 16s. So Gohan has 120% Super AGL lead, and this is super helpful, except for the fact that, you can never run an Android 16 on it. So that was kind of a big foot in mouth moment, and a lot of people didn't like that. A lot of people hoped that the Android 16 would be AGL type, but there is a problem to this, and this is what I'll get to. But I want to first address the full conditioning requirements. And then having an Android category enemy is great, but it's only really applicable, as you can see here, in Red Zone. And then having an Android's category ally is pretty difficult when a unit is on Hybrid Saiyans, Transformation Boost, Youth, Goku's Family, Super Saiyans, etc. It's not like Android units are falling out of the whim to take on, Gohan or be involved with Gohan. So it's kind of a big difficult situation, unfortunately. As you can see, with the active skill playing right now, it is possible to transform Gohan, and although it's very rare, there's a reason for this. Gohan's transformation still, even un-EZA'd, by far and large, is one of the biggest power spike increases to come to Dokkan ever. His transformation is so unhingedly good that even now, this is a pre-EZA Gohan, you're going to see a unit do attack stats that rival other comparable units. For example, Beast Gohan, who I also have a dupe in, by the way, is going to hit similar attack stats to Gohan. Not to mention, Gohan retains any defensive stacks that he carried over. His Super Saiyan 2 form creates rainbow orbs, when facing one enemy. Launches an additional super attack when facing multiple enemies. Has attack of 20% per key sphere obtained and defense of 7% per key sphere obtained. He will greatly raise defense on both his 12 and 18 key, and he also has 59% additional attack when performing an ultra super attack, and when your team has Super Saiyan Goku attacking in the same turn. It's pretty crazy. Like, that kind of base stat passive is comparable to units that come out now. A lot of that is very reciprocal to the Kid Goku that recently came out and everyone loves. The only thing is the defense, really, but that will change with his EZA, which, let's not even talk about that yet. But you're gonna see, you saw last turn, when he transformed, him do a 9 million attack stat. Gohan doing 9 million attack stats didn't exist until like this year. People were only doing attack stats like this year. And Gohan has been doing these type of things since he was released. His rate of damage was too high for the game. So they had to lower the requirements. They had to raise the requirements. They had to restrict Gohan tremendously. And if they didn't restrict Gohan, the game's natural curve, 1, would have been horrendously broken, and 2, he would have been, by far and away the most relevant unit forever. You could have, with a Kamehameha leader skill, which people also underestimate, Gohan is undeniably a fantastic unit. His link set is fantastic. Kamehameha, Prepared for Battle, Fierce Battle, Super Saiyan, Saiyan Warrior Race, Golden Warrior. These are fantastic links. His build-up, his ability to gather defense, his LR stats, all of these things cause problems. And very, very, very similarly to how Mystic Gohan created a gaming issue when he had God, Gohan's transformation created a balancing issue that they could never have solved for a very long period of time. Gohan's transformation not only opens up his huge attack stats, but it also opens up a lot of gimmicky runs. Gohan's ability to do huge damage and also his nuking nature means that it makes it incredibly difficult for you to functionally build an event around him. Look at the Gods of Destruction, for example. How many of those Gods of Destruction were instantly eliminated by a non-Easy 8 Gohan? There were videos all over Reddit, all over YouTube, all over Twitter of Gohan being transformed through health requirements, being transformed with an Android 16 on the team, being given 2 orb items, and instantly exploding Gods of Destruction. Because Gohan is not, like, again, those levels of damage were not things that the game could handle at that level of time. It was only up till Red Zone, and Red Zone is a multi-phase event that could cause Gohan problem. But even then, you will see clips, obviously now of Easy 8 Gohan, instantly deleting so many bosses. Because Gohan, once transformed, combines the worst, not the worst, but combines the most offensively powerful mechanic, which is orb multiplication. When he fires off his super attacks, the rate at which you gather those orbs causes a huge problem. So they had to lock this away. And it's the same with the ZZA. I don't know if you've seen the clips, but his Super Saiyan 2 form is unforgivably good. Like, it's actually borderline broken. Not only, okay, does it have improved stats compared to before, but it has additional ki that it never had before. It changes more orbs than it didn't before. It has built-in crit chance, which it never had before. It has huge levels of damage that can be done. And I think people need to understand that sometimes, although it would be great, and it is a PvE game, I understand that, it would be absolutely fantastic for us to use Super Saiyan 2 Gohan all the time. They do have to some extent balance the game, especially since they look like they want to move away from making things like SBR the hardest content in the game, and having like red zones where you can take any team in. That means you can take Gohan into any stage, and yes, you won't complete all your missions, but you will never struggle for a hard stage again if Super Saiyan 2 Gohan can exist all the time. And if Super Saiyan 2 Gohan can exist all the time, then that means we have to consider what the other units that are coming out will be. People will always be comparing those units to Gohan, which means you always have to increase the rates, the attack, the defense, the performance of those units comparatively. By locking away the transformation a bit more, you lower the curve and make it so that the game has a little bit more longevity in it. I understand, personally, a lot of people would have really liked the active skill to change. I am one of them, in a sense that what I really wanted was basically to have the health requirement go up a little bit, to make it 65 or 70%, personally speaking, just because I wanted more option to use it earlier on in a run, or when I'm in a less precarious position. Gohan needed to be restricted. Over time, he'll become less restricted. More units will come out, an AGL Android 16 will come out, an AGL Android will come out, more will be added on. Yes, he will always be restricted. He will always never truly be able to be run on every single team. I think the closest you can get to being able to run him all the time is running him and running AGL Hachan on the same team, because Hachan is a super AGL type, and having Hachan will enable you to use Kid Goku, who can pair the two up together, and Hachan is relatively tanky, even at lower stats. You can also run Gamma 2 as well, although it's a bit of a wonky build, but yes, in theory, Gohan will be able to become stronger over time. And in general, there will be kind of this move to having Gohan be a more accessible unit. But at the same time, it is something that's always going to have to be locked away. it's reminiscent of the show. Gohan's power was locked away because of how powerful it was. He couldn't handle it, he never had access to it, we'd only seen it in glimpses, and then he finally gains control. And it's the same way in the game to an extent. You can only access Gohan so much, because at the end of the day, the more if we had free access to Gohan, then every unit after this would be borderline insane, because I don't actually think they could make a cooler unit than freely transforming Super Saiyan Gohan. Like, that's just how it is, personally speaking. I think, you know, that has to be the, like, utmost, like, important, thing about this. It's just impossible at the end of the day to balance a game if you don't, to a certain extent, restrict these units somewhat. I just think it's not something you can do. It's not really something that can or should be utilized. I mean, you can see it here. Gohan, pre-EZA, yes, defensively, of course, I recognize that he's not the strongest, and I'm not saying he didn't deserve an EZA, but his offensive output before EZA has been perfectly fine in all of these events. He deals huge attack stats, he's been getting additional super attacks, he's been doing a fantastic job. You can see here, he has 184,000 attack and defense. I don't know about you, but that seems pretty decent to me for a unit that I transformed immediately. Not only that, but he's going to do a fantastic attack stat, 8.9 million. Again, don't know about you, but that seems pretty good to me, and he's done perfectly fine. He also gets an additional super attack because he's now facing multiple enemies. That's going to greatly raise his defense, and yeah, he's going to take damage, for sure, 100%, I agree with that. Getting his EZA is awesome, but offensively, what you just saw was a unit that hasn't been EZA'd yet, and has existed since, like, 2018, I think? 2017? When was that? 2019 he came out, 4 years ago, and he still puts up attack stats like that. But let me know your thoughts, and bye.